Okay.
Good morning and welcome to our session, which has kind of a long title, but we'll unpack it a little later. My name is Sorina Telanu. I work with Diplo Foundation and the Geneva Internet Platform. And it is an honor to actually welcome you here today for the launch of the 8th edition of what we call a classical in Internet governance, which is Jovan's Introduction to Internet Governance. When was the book first published? 2006? Four. So over the years, the past 7 editions have been published in many languages. They have been used as textbooks in many universities around the world. I have met quite a lot of people this week who have told me, you know, this is how I actually started learning about internet governance through Jovan's book and then through some of Diplo's courses. So Jovan, congrats for that as well. So today we're launching the new edition of this book. Jovan will tell us a bit about it. And while he will do so, he will also explain probably one of the controversial things that has been discussed in this space for the past 2 years at least. Internet governance, is it versus digital governance? Is it and digital governance? Is there a dichotomy between them or not? And why is Jovan still calling his book Introduction to Internet Governance when everyone is talking about, you know, AI governance, data governance, digital governance, and a bunch of other stuff? I'm not very good in phrasing. I should have prepared a better speech, but really, I do encourage everyone to take a look at this short excerpt, and then the book will be available soon online, and we will have a list. I think my colleague has a list around. You can share your email addresses, and we'll make sure to send the full book to share the full book with you. Jovan, over to you. Why did you still want to write a book? How many years after the previous editions?
9 years.
And why still internet governance?
Yeah, this is what I'm asking myself, to tell you the truth. But fortunately, and I think it's interesting dilemma. I thought, okay, that's done. I wrote his till last edition was 2016, and it helps some people to understand what is going on, to get into internet governance. I said, it's enough. It's 7th edition. It was translated in 11 languages, and I was proud. And what Sorina said, what really makes me happy and particularly honored and returns me purpose in my work is when people stop me and say, hey, this book helped me to get into internet governance and digital governance. And I can tell you this is the biggest achievement probably in my career. It could sound a small thing, but it's remarkable. Sometimes this book started, the first edition started when, probably you heard it, when friends of mine, when I was telling them what I was doing, they were inviting me to fix their printer, to install their software back 23 or 4 years ago. And I said, it's not exactly what I'm doing. I usually install their printer and software and these things, and then explain what it is about. 2 years ago, with the AI wave, I realized that confusion is increasing. And I said, wow, I should again get back and start writing something. Then, you know, I'm born procrastinator. It took time. I'm a bit lazy. And then AI helped also, and I'll tell you how AI helped me. It is not written by AI, don't worry. But I I said, okay, I will write this 8th edition. And when I started writing it, I realized that one part I wrote and it became obsolete by basically the ink dried. And I said, I cannot write it this way. I have to invent something else. And I use a Japanese word, kaizen. Kaizen explains the constant improvements and constant developments. Therefore, one interesting aspect before I move to the book is that basically overall way how I did it. And I said, okay, I cannot write it, send to editors, spend 2 years, and basically everything will be different in digital world. Frankly speaking, most digital and AI books these days are becoming obsolete before they're published. You have whole graveyards of rhetorics, and this is a question for colleagues from academia, to rethink the way of publishing. Here is how I did it. I said, okay, I have IG book. This is my starting point. It has to be revisited, and I will focus on changes over 9 years, which is important to see things into perspective. And I said, I will use AI. we at Diplo developed a model based on my writing and my Zoom calls, my way of framing issues, how am I inductive or deductive thinker, what type of sentences I use, long and short, what type of cadenza of music in the writing I've been using. And I said, okay, let me use it. At least nobody can blame it, the book is written by AI, because I wrote 7 editions. And then I realized, okay, what we have to do is to have at one point in time, and this is this point, closure. And this is why printed version is useful. You create the closure. At this point, this is my thinking in June 2025 on the issues AI governance, digital governance, cybersecurity. And then you continue continuous update in this Kaizen publishing style. AI is going on the net and say, here is an article in academia. Here is a policy statement at the VSIS. And basically, you have the constant updates till the moment where you create again closure. And this is basically how the publishing works. Now, I'm also with my leg in academic community and research community, and I can tell you that community will have to undergo profound changes because of the impact of the AI. The old way of publishing isn't going to work. Yes, we need peer review. Yes, we need quality control. Yes, we need checking the things, but not in these rituals where book, before it's published, it takes 1.5, 2 years. That doesn't make sense. Therefore, this is Kaizen publishing. What you will get is excerpts from the book. You can register by signing, and you will receive link to the online version, which you can download. And you will receive also link to this Kaizen space where the continuous updates are done. Let me give you one example. I had a section on the VSIS, future of the VSIS. And I covered more or less all aspects. But then you come here and you have a completely new insights. You have the new views. And then what I wrote as my summary of the future of the VSIS just 10 days ago, it's already obsolete. Obsolete in a sense that there is refinement of the arguments, new metaphors, new framing of the issues. And as you know, I'm particularly focused on the framing of the issues, and this cognitive apparatus, how we deal with the policy dynamic is critical. This is the history overall survey, how the book started, and why I decided to start writing 2 years ago. Because I realized confusion around AI is enormous, and one has to sort it out somehow. Then I said, okay, how to call the book? And my brand friends, who is a brand specialist, don't call internet governance. Nobody knows what is internet. Everything is digital, AI governance, cutting edge governance, and this and that. I said, okay, that's a legitimate point. And then I started moving in very semantic analysis, which you will find at the very beginning of the publication. Basically, I answered the question why it is still internet governance. I went into analysis, and you know that I like to use the pyramids, and I went to the basement. It is basic terminology in information and communication technology. It's anything from the pigeon to the telegraph till AI. And if you see, UN is still using ICT. It's interesting. UN is basically the most precise, the broader terms. Then when you move up, you have electric signals, telegraph, basically. And then you move up, you have a digital, zeros and ones. And then you move up, you come to internet, and up you come to AI. Now, calling it ICT, it would be too broader. Calling it electric would be also too broad. Digital was a candidate. And I had a dilemma between digital and internet. And there are arguments for both. My arguments for internet prevailed because most of the governance issues related to digital are related to the internet. Yes, you can have AI farm or you can have whatever, but ultimately it comes to us through TCP/IP, through internet protocol. whether it is disinformation, whether it is e-commerce, whether it is content governance and everything else. Therefore, I think the internet is still the least imprecise, let's say, not prefix, but I know Ginger will correct me, description on what we are discussing today. Digital would be correct, but a bit broader. And you know, in the logic and epistemology, if you can find a specific term, use specific term. Don't go for the broader terms. Now, as you know, the confusion is on the steroids. You have AI governance, cyber governance, digital, and you know how it works. Academics, when they want to create a new research field, a new book, they just invent the new terms. Policymakers, when they want to make initiative, they become AI ambassador, tech ambassador, digital ambassador, and the other things. That's basically how it is, and it's very human, let's put it this way. Therefore, that could be an interesting point. If you agree with my point, why I still call it internet governance, not digital governance, definitely not AI governance. Although advice from the brand advisor was to use AI governance because it's very topical. Now, in the book, I start with my old, well, I should have used PowerPoint, but that's it. My building, you know, building with 7 floors, 50 issues. And then the first part is internet evolution. And here is a fascinating insight. We are sometimes obsessed that everything is happening now and here. It's a bit of chrono-narcissism, because it's very natural. We are here in Oslo, I'm sorry, we are excited, the world is changing, we are part of the process, and we think everything is happening here. But when you really step back, you realize few things. That technological governance is very, let's say, constant across the time. I'll give you 2 examples. Nowadays, we discuss impact of the Trump administration on digitalization and AI. But if you really analyze, you can see that US digital policy has not changed since, and I'm highlighting, since 1892, in the 19th century, when the United States joined the St. Petersburg meeting of the International Telecommunication Union. The rhetoric is the same. Innovation, law governance, business interests. At that time, in the other blocks were European countries with the postal and telegraph unions. UK, France, Germany. That was dichotomy between 2 actors. Fast forward. The only change in the US policy was so-called Titanic moment. Then they decided, because of the sheer power of the shock that Titanic sinking created, they decided to adopt radio telecommunication, which is still in the force till today. And apparently increasingly controversial because of satellites business. Now, fast forward, you come to 1998. And all digital, internet, ICT governance regimes that we discussed today were set within the 3 months of the 1998. In September, at the beginning of September 1998, Google was established. ICANN was in the 3rd week of the September 1998. Russia tabled cybersecurity resolution on the 30th September 1998, which led to the UN government group of experts, open-ended working group, the process which is still going on. I think next week they will be meeting. WTO, in the same last week of the 1998, September 1998, decided about moratorium on the custom duties on e-commerce. And just slightly later, in November 1998, ITU decided to hold the VSIS during the plenipotentiary meeting in Minneapolis. Therefore, if you really step back, frankly speaking, those pillars, WTO for e-commerce, UNGG for the cybersecurity, ICANN for the names and numbers, and the VSIS for overall digital governance are still in the place till today. Now, that's the first really strong call for all of us not to be over-impressed by immediate. Even it looks drastic. The rhetoric is everything is changing. We are pushing the frontier. Nothing will be the same. We need a new governance for the new technology. You know the rhetoric, how it goes. It's not as dramatic as it looks. And there are two examples: U.S. constant digital policy and autumn 1998 as basis for it. Now, fast forward. I need some water. Thank you. Fast forward 2016, when I published the last edition of my book. Now I compare what's happened in the meantime, and I realized there were basically four main developments. First one, massive shift of data from our personal computers to cloud. It started a bit before with social media, but it accelerated over the last 9 years with enormous consequences for governance, freedom, knowledge, policy. Second one was COVID pandemic, which accelerated this process, where we have to move online and work online. Another one is shift from CPUs, central processing unit, which dominated the space, to GPUs and made people from NVIDIA and other companies extremely rich. CPUs were central processing unit. Intel and AMD and others dominated it. GPUs, which NVIDIA started developing for games. Then they got the first boost with the Bitcoin, with the blockchain, and another boost later on with AI. That's the major shift, I would say, in hardware basis. Another is a satellite connectivity, especially with low orbit satellites. And the last one is obviously artificial intelligence. Now, if you go through each of these, you can see that they are long-term trajectories. They are not just shift of data towards cloud as enormous impact on the digital governance. What's happened in governance field? First, UN started, and I was part of the process with the high-level panel, started this parallel process. I know there have been many criticism. Now it's still with GDC versus the elephant in the room, small, big one, I don't know. But I was part of that process, and when I had a chance to influence some discussions, I was always insisting that we need evolution, not revolution. We need IGF+, which exists, not to reboot everything. But what I have to highlight for the internet governance community, there was a need for something like this. There was a bit of, and sometimes you cannot go into rational decisions. Oh, we have IGF, we have versus, we have that. Yes, we have that. But policy and politics is sometimes irrational. You need new energy, you need a boost. People were asking, diplomats, we need to do something, especially with this digital governance. What I'm going to report back to the capital. Therefore, GDC and that process, which started in 2018, was needed. I wish we could have steered it a bit more in convergence element, but that's for another discussion. Then we had AI safety line with the Bletchley conference. Again, 2003, AI, magic. It's going to kill humanity. We have to be careful. We need regulation. AI is like atomic, nuclear energy, nuclear bomb, you know, all of these metaphors that were used. A letter by thousands of scientists, we have to ban development of AI and this and that. I was sitting on the gallery at that time, thinking gallery, and said, my God, how far is going to go? Because discussion became completely irrational. It calmed down, and at that point there was a Bletchley summit, safety line, there was another, and if you follow just that, you can see how AI evolved. Bletchley, security, doomsday scenario, large language models, and basically narrative of main tech companies. We know how dangerous it is. We want governments to regulate, to stop developments, and to trust us that we will save humanity. Fortunately, for different reasons, we didn't react to that. Then there was a Seoul conference, which calmed down, and Paris, in February, which basically removed completely Bletchley this line of thinking. Now, why is this important? The question of AI governance is important, and that evolution is another elephant in the room. Yes, we have long-term risks, but we have to judge these risks in the context. What are the immediate risks for educational system? I mentioned for publishing process as a way of justifying through peer review our thinking and our validity in academic world, jobs and the other issues. Those are immediate risks. Then you have midterm risks of huge concentration of our knowledge in the hands of few companies. And I'm highlighting knowledge, not data. This is very important. And I'll come back to this knowledge data dynamics. And then you have a third point, yes, long-term risks. They exist. AI may destroy us. AI may get the power, although we can discuss that. It's a very controversial topic. But let's discuss it in the informed way. And there are tools like climate change. There are tools where you can discuss it in an informed way. And I think AI panel, which UN is proposing, is a good way to have a reasonable discussion in this context. Then we had... That's it. That last point, data knowledge, shift from data to knowledge. If you read Versis document, full of knowledge, no data, here and there. If you read today's policy documents, full of data, no knowledge. And AI is about knowledge. Just think about that shift. Why we kicked out knowledge from the policy documents and why we replaced with data. That's an interesting point. And the last point before is that geopolitics. Internet was triggered by geopolitics, by Sputnik moment, 1957, when 4th October, when the US political elite thought, wrongly so, that they were losing scientific competition with Soviet Union. They created NASA, and it was one of the most fascinating scientific projects that started, especially during Kennedy's time in the United States. Now, if you really think that carefully, we are closing the circle. Digital and internet is becoming, again, geopolitical issues with predominantly negative consequences, but also some reality check. And that's basically the last point in this summary, which you can find in the book, is this shift from the, let's say, major Western-centered shaping of discussion towards more Asian, Latin American, Africa is also coming, shaping of narratives. Narratives are the key, use of metaphors, narratives and other issues, which you can find in the book, analysis of narratives. We can discuss now AI, but if you want to see deeper, you go through the narratives, and on that point, I advise you to follow Diplo's reporting from this meeting, which among other things have two elements. You will get it at the end of the reporting. One is cliché detector, how many clichés are repeated during the meeting. And the other is narrative shaping. What are the narratives, metaphors used to shape? That's basically toolkit, let's say Swiss knife for digital governance. When you get the toolkit, when somebody uses a metaphor, you know why that person is using metaphor. What is the policy behind? What is the idea? And you can have more inclusive, informed, and impactful digital governance. Surina?
Thank you, Jovan. We have 3 more minutes, so that's going to be a challenge. I don't know if anyone in the room wants to add some sort of reflections on what Jovan has been saying, or to ask a question. We really have a short time, but should we try? Anyone? If not, we encourage you to join us at our booth, and we can continue to have the conversation there. You know, in the village, I don't remember the number of the booth, but my colleague is there. And you've also shared the 40-something. You've shared the list with emails, right? Okay. So we will be sending the link to all of you who have registered. If you don't,
can browse a few copies.
And we have a few copies of the excerpt of the book here if you would like to get it. Nothing? All right.
Thank you.
Then thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Jovan. And please join us at the booth.